The following is a Hoop Ball presentation. Welcome to the Fantasy NBA Today podcast.
Dynasty Tuesdays, ladies and gentlemen. Dynasty Tuesdays. We got a day of the week. We got a theme these days on the pod. This is Fantasy NBA Today. I am Dan Besbris. He is Adrian Benjamins. You guys had to listen to me wax about betting for 40 minutes yesterday. Today, you'll actually get to hear some fantasy thoughts. Adrian, what's up, my man?
What's going on, Dan? Thank you for having me.
Oh, stop it. You're still... Now you're just doing that. Now you're just trolling me with that crap.
I'm really looking forward to, going over round 2 of this Dynasty League. And, we talked earlier about how Yahoo's opened up their mock draft rooms, or Yahoo basketball sites open. I've done about 10 mock drafts, and I got some thoughts.
Didn't they open on Friday?
Yes, and I probably would have done more than 10 if my son turned 6 years old on Saturday, and we were busy with birthday stuff.
Oh my God, you're so sick. I love it so much. You're a special kind of sick, man. That's so great. Well, happy birthday to your little boy.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's good. Good. I'm glad something could pull you away from the mock drafts for a few minutes.
But yeah, I got a lot of thoughts on these mock drafts, Dan. So what tends to happen is I just randomly start the mock drafts. I start, just taking players I like. And what tends to happen is I gradually fall into this groove where I start gravitating to the guys I want. I start figuring out what rounds they're going in. And I start kind of creating this blueprint. And once I kind of fall into that groove, every single mock draft I do kind of starts looking the same. And so I got a little blueprint that I've started here that I want to run by you, Dan.
Okay, so we're going to get into the blueprint in one moment. First things first, this is Fantasy NBA Today. I think I mentioned that before. At Adrian Benjamins, at Dan Besbris, if you want to follow the two of us on Twitter. It is Tuesday. It's been a fun week so far. You will have me solo again tomorrow, by the way. We'll talk some more sports betting. I'll be talking with Neil Rochlani on Thursday. Probably more betting, maybe some fantasy. We usually get into both. And then Adrian, you and Neil will wrap the week up on Friday's edition. This is kind of fun, actually. I had a few people on Twitter that came into my mentions and talked about how they were interested in Dynasty discussion. So we're going to get to that later on in today's podcast. But you heard it already. Adrian is the mock draft degenerate of the millennium. I mean, you are like, it's mind-boggling, and I love it to an unbelievable degree. So I'm really excited to hear this blueprint. I think I'm probably gonna come after you a little bit, if that's okay. Like, I'm not gonna grill you or anything, but there are certain things that happen in late August that I'm pretty curious about. So, all right, I'm interested. You got my interest peaked. What do we got?
Bring it, Dan. Okay, so we got to take this blueprint that I'm about to throw down on you will likely change because the rankings are going to change. The rankings are going to get updated. There's still some really strange stuff that we're seeing in the rankings that I'll talk about. But anyways, here we go. I like to start my mock drafts. Usually the best outcome I find, I start with 2 guards. Now, the reason why I like to start with 2 guard types is from rounds 3 to 6, there's a run of big men that I go on that I like a lot. I usually get 3 or 4 big men in those rounds that I'll talk about later. So, love to start my draft. Love the outcome the most when I start with 2 guards. So I go with guys like Harden, Giannis, Curry, Lillard, Victor Oladipo, Donovan Mitchell. One of my favorite spots to draft at is around pick 6 to 8. I'll grab a guy like Damian Lillard. On the way back, I'll grab a guy like Victor Oladipo. Now, I love doing 12-team mock drafts, Dan, because most of my redraft leagues are 12-team. And even if I do end up doing 10 teams, when you're so ready for a 12-teamer and you're drafting for a 10-team, you destroy that 10-team draft because you're so in tuned for like a larger draft.
Yeah, 10 teams to me are kind of, I don't know. I'll do them and I'll generally win them because I think I and all of us here at Fantasy NBA Today and Hoopball understand the value of those early round picks. And in a 10-team league, you can just go on a 2-for-1 bonanza, just like packaging all of your second, third, and fourth round guys to get 2 or 3 first rounders, and then no one can touch you. But that's a discussion for a different day. In terms of the mocks, you were talking about getting a couple of guards early. What are you finding so far? Like where are guys going in your mock drafts? Where are the rankings placing them? Are there any surprises?
No big surprises at the top. It's pretty much how you would expect. But now, Dan, if I'm drafting early in the round, meaning I've got picks 1 through 5, I go Harden, Curry, Giannis, Kevin Durant. Even though he's not a point guard, he can still kind of provide you point guard like stats. I don't mind drafting. Does that hurt
you in terms of eligibility, though? Does that, if you ended up with Kevin Durant, do you have to change? Does that mean that your third round pick is definitely going to be a point guard? Or
no,
a center?
Because later in my draft, I'm going to tell you about some point guards that I am targeting later. But
okay, my apologies. Continue.
I love just getting 2 guards and 2 guard-like guys. And the reason is, Dan, is because from about rounds 3 through 6, I go so big heavy that after that round 6, there's no longer any elite guards on the board. That's why rounds 1 and 2, I really love how my teams shape up when I get 2 guards. So as I said, at the beginning of the round, I look for Harden, Giannis, Curry. Later in the first round, I'll go for a guy like Lillard. And then on the way back, I'll go for a guy like Victor Oladipo or Donovan Mitchell. Love Donovan Mitchell.
I know you do.
That's my rounds 1 and 2. What do you think so far, Dan?
Okay, so what I'm curious about right now, and this will probably become more of a thing as we get into the late early to early middle rounds, is where guys are coming off the board. Who has been the most frequent top 3 in your mock? Oh, by the way, is this 8 or 9 cat you're mocking on?
I usually just grab whatever room's open. It's usually a 9 cat, but every once in a while it is an 8 cat.
So is AD going first in most of the 9 cat ones, or are people overlooking him because of the injury stuff?
Nope, it's pretty much Anthony Davis is the popular guy to go number 1, followed by Karl Anthony Towns, Steph Curry, James Harden, and then Giannis. Now, I had pick 6, I think pick 7 in one draft, and Giannis fell to me there. So Giannis kind of varies, but the first 5 is Anthony Davis, Towns, Curry, also Kevin Durant sometimes there as well.
I'm surprised to see Curry in that top 3. I thought people might be fading him a tiny bit off the injury-plagued 2017-2018 season. You think that might change as time goes, or does it feel pretty locked in? I mean, it seems kind of locked in.
It feels locked in, but there is a little buzz growing, Dan, that the Warriors, they kind of gaining this reputation of resting guys. All of a sudden, they've got 5 all-stars on the team. So there's a lot of mouths there to feed. So I'm kind of curious how this keeps going in the offseason. If as we get closer to draft, our real drafts, if he's going to slip a little bit here.
I hope so. Man, I hope so. I got all my eggs in that I hope he slips a tiny bit basket. I thought he would. So this is, I wonder, this obviously drafts at different websites. You see different things. I also feel like, and maybe this is something I overlooked a little bit. So I know we got the blueprint to get through here, Adrian, and I don't want to derail us too much, but have you found the people you're drafting against right now to be better skilled fantasy players than you might find like the week before the season begins? Like, are you finding that most of the people you're drafting against are the diehards because you and the other maniacs are the only people doing mocks in late August?
The people that are in these mock drafts right now are definitely the diehards. We're so early. But Dan, it's going to change so much from now. I don't really think it's giving us some crazy advantage. It's more that we're just going to be tuned into what's happening live as it happens. Meaning we're going to see guys literally move up the rankings every single day, or we're going to see guys move down. I really love just being in tuned to that movement, like on a real time as it happens type of basis.
Yeah, this is really intriguing, and I feel like I need to drop a little mea culpa in this thing, because when you and I talked about your love of mock drafts 2-3 weeks ago, whatever it was, hell, it might have been longer than that, I think I definitely mocked you for doing a ton of mock drafts this early, which, by the way, still rightfully so. But what I didn't give you and these other folks credit for is you're actually getting kind of a sneak preview of what the best drafters are going to do. You don't have the sort of the average Joes in these mock drafts yet. That seems like that might be a contingent that shows up closer to early October. So this might be a better representation. This might force you to really think through your strategy. It might get easier for you, Adrian, as the mock draft season moves along.
Yeah, I think so. And, one of the things that's really interesting, Dan, when I started doing the mock drafts, we're only a week into a 6-week mock draft season or a 5-week mock draft season. But when I very first started doing this, I was picking guys off, really taking advantage of the skewed value in the rankings. And now, Dan, I did a mock draft right before we got into this pod, and guys were drafting players way before their ranking, meaning these guys are getting really smart and taking guys where they're actually supposed to go. And I'll give you an example of that later.
So this might be feeding us a little bit of misinformation in the opposite direction. What I thought, again, when you and I talked initially, and then I want to get back to the blueprint because I feel like I've taken us off the tracks a little bit here. What I thought initially was that, and this does tend to be the case, at least for me, when I do my 1 or 2 mock drafts in October, I get everybody that I'm looking for because I'm in these mock drafts with people that have no clue what they're doing. They're in their first fantasy league, and they just hop in a random mock draft, and they end up with whoever. It's like they take whoever's at the top of the list on the Yahoo auto draft thing. So to me, that always has been not helpful at all. I've gleaned more information from watching other mock drafts and seeing industry drafts and stuff like that than I have from actually jumping into the mock drafts. What you're seeing now, Adrian, and I think there's a lot of good information in it, and I think there's also a little bit of misinformation in it, is you're almost now convincing yourself you might feel like you need to go higher for guys than you actually will when you drop a few average folks into a league, because inevitably they will show up. Not everyone in a league is going to be a superstar, and right now it seems like you're drafting against mostly stud players who take all the sleeper guys early. I worry that you're going to end up feeling like you need to take guys early, but you do so many mock drafts that you'll actually see these guys start to slide back as regular folks make their way into the mock drafts. Does that feel like something you feel like you've witnessed in the past or maybe are witnessing now?
Yeah, it's something that I am witnessing now, but I still feel like I'm grabbing guys. I'm getting the right value on guys, even though compared to their rankings, I definitely am jumping the gun. For example, Jared Allen is a guy right now that, as I'll get into my blueprint, I'm drafting in the 6th round. He's ranked 98th on Yahoo. Another guy that I'll Deontay Murray, after I go through my middle rounds of bigs, I love targeting Deontay Murray a little bit later, like in round 8. Damn, this guy's ranked 155 on the rankings. So, I'm kind of abusing the rankings in that I'm not following them at all. But also, Dan, every once in a while, I'll get into these mock drafts where guys just like me, they'll take Jared Allen in that 6th round. So they're not following those rankings as well. So, yeah.
All right, blueprint. Let's take us back into this thing. I think that was a good little corollary there to the advantages of an early mock or the disadvantages of an early mock. You got your guards in rounds 1 and 2. Was there anyone else going in round 2 that tempted you a little bit? Like,
Yes.
Okay, hit me with that.
Yes. So there's a nice set of wing guys in Jimmy Butler, Paul George, Chris Middleton's a nice guy as well. Get very tempted by these wing guys in that second round. Paul George, great value, is going in the mid to later second round. I think he's a great value right there. Sometimes he's there, and I want to take him so bad, Dan. But I'm going to show you in my blueprint, Dan, after my run of bigs from round 3 to 6, there is a glut of value wing small forward players that I'm going to run by you that I like a lot that are available very late. But anyways, back to the blueprint. Round 3, after I take my guards, I love going Miles Turner. Now, sometimes I like to see if I can get Miles Turner in round 4. Sometimes he's not there in round 4. I think I'm going to play it safe, go Miles Turner in round 3. I'm really happy with him. I love what I'm hearing from him this offseason. Miles Turner, Dan, there's like this holy grail of centers, and I feel like Miles Turner falls in that category because of the threes, the blocks, the good percentages, the doesn't hurt you anywhere. Is still young, this guy's just checking all the boxes. He let us down last year. I think this is going to be his year. I love all the buzz about him doing yoga. I think it's going to help his game. I'm buying into all that hype. Okay, round 4 after Miles Turner, I take a wing guy here, Josh Richardson or Tobias Harris in round 4, either one of those guys. And then here's the magic part, Dan. Round 5 and 6, John Collins, Jared Allen. So after 6 rounds, I've got 2 guards, 3 bigs, Miles Turner, John Collins, Jared Allen, and I got 1 wing guy in Josh Richardson, Tobias Harris. That's my base. I'm loving that team so far.
Okay, so on the Miles Turner front, do you think there's any chance he slips as you get more Yahoos into these mock drafts? Because 3rd round feels pretty high for a guy that really crapped himself last year.
I don't think he's going to slip, Dan, but also I don't think he's going to move up any higher than this, which is also good news because
true.
I'll be honest with you, Dan, me taking Jared Allen in round 6, I'm really scared that this guy's going to keep moving up and up and up. Like, as I mentioned before, this guy's ranked 98th on the ranking. I just did a mock draft and somebody else took him around 6, where all the 9 other mock drafts I did before this, I was the only one taking Jared Allen in round 6. So I'm a little worried he's going to move up. Now, Miles Turner, I hope I can't take him any sooner than round 3. I think even round 3, I might be reaching just a little bit, but I've seen him gone in round 4. So
I would think late. I would think late round 3. Like, I don't think you need to get him at 25.
No, I agree. And Miles Turner really let us down last year in 8 category leagues, finished as the 67th player. So, if he does what he did last year, we're all going to be very disappointed. But also, Dan, I feel like this guy does have first round type ceiling because of that all around game that we talked about, the threes, the blocks, the great shooting. It's just like this guy can finish as like a late first round player possibly, but I really don't want to pay more than that 3rd round price.
All right, I got 2 guys that I need to know where they've been going for you. You ready?
Yes.
Where's Kawhi Leonard going?
Kawhi Leonard has been going in the 2nd round. I think that it's a little too early for me, Dan. I still, I need to know. So his average draft position in Yahoo is about pick 14. So that's like the beginning of the 2nd round for a 12-team league. Dan, it's a little too early for me. It's just, there's just too many question marks. We still don't know, is he 100% healthy? He's on a brand new team. Yes, we think he's going to be the lead alpha guy on his team. He's had plenty of rest. Let's see how he looks in the preseason, Dan. If he comes out this preseason and if he looks really strong, I might feel a little bit better about this draft price here. But right now, it's just a little too early for me.
I agree. I agree with that. I was really I'm very much behind the idea of picking up some Kawhi Leonards in fantasy leagues, but if I have the 14th pick, then there are going to be guys on the board that are much safer early second round guys that you're like, okay, I know I'm going to get top 20 production out of this dude. And with Kawhi Leonard, you have that opportunity where maybe you're going to get a top 10 guy, but you also basically throw your league into the dumpster if he doesn't play again this year. I think he will play. I think you'll see most of a decent season, but even if he misses a decent amount of time, then you're way up a creek. Here's my other guy I need to know about. Where's Kevin Love going?
Great question, Dan. Kevin Love, his average draft position right now is 25, and that is a great value right there, Dan. This is a guy who, this guy's got first round upside, right? This is a guy I think as we get closer to actual draft day, he'll be more of a second round value, a guy who will just be going in the second round. But right now at pick 25, that's great value right there, Dan.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. That intrigues me greatly. Anything more on the blueprint before we give people a little taste of Dynasty stuff? I like this. It's good to have the mock man here.
Lastly, when I'm done with that run of bigs that I was telling you about, Collins, Jared Allen, I go for Dejounte Murray regularly right there at round 7. Then I love to turn my attention to wings because, I've drafted so many guards and centers. I need wings. Here's a short list of wings. I think these are great value guys. Dan, Kyle Anderson ranked 112. Brandon Ingram ranked 128. Jonathan Isaac, a guy who I love for the defensive stats, ranked 129, and Mario Hezonja, who I think is going to start for the Knicks, ranked 137, Dan. Usually in rounds 8 through about 11, I grab at least 3 of these guys. I think all of these guys are going to have a great season, flying under the radar, and I love targeting these guys after that run of bigs. Lastly... Oh,
sorry, go ahead. Yeah, continue.
No, go ahead.
The only thing I was going to say is I'm still not sold on Brandon Ingram's value, but continue.
Okay, and then lastly, these are my late round targets. DJ Augustine's the guy I love. Dan, ranked 141. Luka Doncic, rookie for the wonder kid rookie for the Dallas Mavericks, ranked 146. So this is like me now, the final rounds, ending my draft. Josh Jackson ranked 208. I think he could have a good year. I'm a little nervous about his shooting, but I think he could have a good season. Cedi Osman, I love ending my draft with this guy. I think he's going to start on the wing for the Cavs. I think he's going to be good. Lastly, Colin Sexton, starting rookie point guard for the Cavs. I think he could be good. I'm talking, Dan, this is last picks. Lastly, Dan, secret pick here, very secret pick. Porzingis ranked 249. He's not even getting drafted in some leagues because you don't even see his name on the list. So very last pick. Sometimes I look to see if Kristaps Porzingis, if no one noticed that he was there, and I'll grab Porzingis. Now, in reality, there's no way Porzingis is going to go this late.
No, there's a few things that popped up in there where I feel like Luka Doncic in particular, is he really going that late in your mock drafts?
Yes, he's going that late in my mock drafts. Now, I do expect him to fly up as we get closer to regular draft season. There's no way he can be going this late. But yes, I am able to get Luka Doncic very late. He's going to start, should get good minutes. Yes, there's going to be that regular rookie inefficiency issues and whatnot. But man, if he ends up going anywhere near this late, great value pick.
All right, let's talk a little bit of Dynasty stuff. We're gonna keep this one a little bit quicker. The plan was to try to get through the second round of the Hoop Ball official Dynasty League draft number 2, or Dynasty League number 2 draft number 1. So this is a first year draft. So let's just jump right into it. I have the list in front of me, but I don't. The hell do I know about this? Reminds me of an old joke. First pick of the second round, 24-team league. So this is pick number 25 was Miles Turner. Then you got Rudy Gobert, DeAndre Ayton, a little run of centers here to open up the second round. What does that mean to you?
Love these picks. No problems here. Miles Turner, 22 years old. I said it earlier on the show, a do-it-all type of center. Great pick here. I don't think we've seen his ceiling yet. 12 points, 6 rebounds, 2 blocks a game, can hit threes. This guy's a do-it-all guy. Rudy Gobert, another great pick. Elite center. The blocks are so great. Now, 26 years old, a little older compared to Miles Turner, who's 22, and DeAndre Ayton is 20. But, Dan, at 26 years old, still's got a lot of time ahead of him. Elite center. Great pick.
Yeah, that one surprised me a little bit because, I know that there's a value to being ultra young, but, 26 is not old. Are people really planning for a dozen years versus, 8 years of a dynasty league? Gobert's going to be good for a while.
Yeah, he's going to be great. And, this is real early. Pick 2 in the second round, which is overall pick 26. So, this is right where he should go. Elite center, the 2.3 blocks per game, probably the best big man. 68% from the free throw line kind of hurts you a little bit. So, but the blocks, the scarcity on the blocks, Dan, is so big. This is a great pick here. Now, this guy, I believe he went Kyrie Irving on the first side. So, his timeline is kind of now, and Rudy Gobert fits that timeline.
Yeah. DeAndre Ayton, the next one, and then you get into actually sort of a one-man gang here. Chris Middleton at 28 in this league. Another guy who maybe you say, all right, well, perhaps he's a couple years into his prime already, but again, not super old, right? Am I out of my mind here? I feel like I'd be trying to go for it now much more than most teams in a dynasty league.
Chris Middleton, I thought was a little interesting, Dan. 27 years old. But, Dan, in 8 categories, this guy finished as the number 13 player. A do-it-all guy, 20 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, almost 2 steals a game, almost 2 threes. I was a little concerned because he came off an injury a couple seasons ago. Dan played 82 games last season. Yeah. So if you're trying to win now, great pick here. But the interesting thing is there are guys kind of similar to him that go later that are younger, but I can't fault this pick at all, Dan. Great pick.
And then some maniac took Jaren Jackson Jr.
So, Dan.
Yeah,
okay.
I know that's you.
I am that maniac. And, Dan, I got to tell you, I was kind of going for Miles Turner here. Miles Turner went off the board just before me. Dan, I think Jaren Jackson Jr. is Miles Turner 2.0. Let me tell you, Dan, early in the show, I said we got this holy grail of centers because of the blocks, the threes, the good percentage. Dan, Jaren Jackson Jr. could be this guy. Dan, this guy's 18. Now, I try not to buy too much into Summer League. Dan, this guy had 8 threes in a Summer League game. Dan, this guy had 7 blocks in one Summer League game. Dan,
Adrian,
this guy reminds me.
Adrian's gassed up right now.
I was talking about JJJ with Neil, and Neil was laughing at me because I get so excited talking about this guy, Dan. I salivate. Dan, this guy reminds me of a hybrid of Kevin Garnett mixed with Amari Stoudemire. I'm excited for this kid, Dan. I couldn't pass him up. But Dan, I got a problem.
Yeah.
My first pick is 19 years old, and my second pick is 18 years old, Dan.
Yeah, you're in it now, man. This is Adrian Benjamins 2021. He's coming for you guys. Well, how do you... Okay, so I don't want to pause for too long because we got a lot of picks to cover in this round, but where do you go from here? I assume you just go maximum youth because with your first 2 picks as rookies, you got no hope of winning for a couple of seasons.
And that's exactly what I did, Dan. I went maximum youth. Dan, we are in what round are we in right now? We're in round
12, I think.
We are in round 12 right now. And let me tell you, Dan, I don't have a single player over the age of 21.
That's amazing.
I committed to this youth build, and I'm going for it. Dan, I'm going to struggle in this league for the next 3 to 4 years.
You're going to be pulling up the basement here. Okay, so this is what I asked last time. Would there have been any advantage, you think, to in like the 4th or 5th round, take an old guy who's at the tail end of his prime, who's still putting up big numbers, and then try to flip that dude to someone in like 4th place at the trade deadline and garner a whole bunch of picks for the following year? Like you could hold somebody hostage for a couple of months, but I guess you had guys that you wanted instead.
Exactly, Dan. There were still some really high-end elite prospects in that 3rd and 4th round that I liked a lot that fit my build. So I just decided to target those guys instead.
All right, fair enough. So after you now, we get into sort of an interesting grab bag here. Aaron Gordon, Gary Harris, Bradley Beal. That's the next 3 on the list. I'm a little bit surprised to see Gary Harris up this high. I know he was really good, but he's also a bit injury prone. So that's a pretty big investment in the 2nd round.
You know what, Dan? I thought this pick was okay. Gary Harris, a proven guy now. The secret's out on him. We're not going to get any kind of discount on him. Dan, only 23 years old, so still very young. Dan, 17 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, 2.3 threes. One other thing I love about this guy, Dan, Coach Malone loves having him on the floor because of his defense. Plays 34 minutes a game, so gets a lot of tick. Dan, this pick was made by Hoopball's own Eric Ong. And can I tell you, Dan, Eric Ong was really targeting the guy that I took, Jaren Jackson Jr. He was trying to flip Gary Harris to me after he took Gary Harris, but I'm sticking true to my young build, Dan.
Yeah, you have to. You really got no choice there. Jamal Murray went at 33, Lauri Markkanen at 34, a couple of young guys before Jimmy Butler, one of the older guys, slips in at 35. It's a nice little cross-section here of youth and age over that 3-pick stretch.
Yeah, and I think that's a great pick for a win now. He is 28 years old, has had some injuries, but damn, this guy, an elite producer, 22 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, over a 3 a game. We know he gets a ton of usage on this Minnesota team, plays over 36 minutes a game for Coach Tibbs. So if you're trying to win now, Jimmy Butler is an elite grab.
Yeah, I mean, and it looks like this particular team is, because that's also one of Hoopball's own, Team Hank Aaron, Hammer and Hank. He turns up with Jimmy Butler. First round, he had Damian Lillard. He was able to get him a little bit on the later side. He got Otto Porter in this thing, so he's getting guys that are already established, which I have to admit is probably what I would do, because, like I said, in 5 years, what if I'm not in this league anymore? You make a run at it.
Yeah, and Dan, one of the things I love, Jimmy Butler, Otto Porter, that's 2 do-it-all, as we say, like a stuff and things type of guy.
Yeah, my ITL guys.
Yes.
Love those dudes. Well, you got another do-it-all guy. Draymond Green went 37. Drew Holiday went 38. That surprises the hell out of me, but I guess he has been in the NBA for a while. And then you go young again. It's interesting the way this sort of bounces back and forth. What do you think about the Draymond and Drew pairing there at 37 and 38?
I really like these picks. Again, these are picks for teams going to win now. Both guys, Draymond Green and Drew Holiday, 28 years old, but both stuff and things type of guys. As we said, 11 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists, 1.3 blocks for Draymond, 1.3 steals, a 3 a game. God, that 1 block, 1 steal, 1 3 a game. So amazing for Draymond. Drew Holiday had a career year last year, won me over. Another guy that contributes everywhere. These are great picks, Dan.
John Collins at 39, Wendell Carter Jr. at 40, Lonzo Ball at 41. The youth movement here in the late 30s, early 40s. Those don't surprise me all that much. These are, well, maybe Wendell Carter Jr. a little bit. But John Collins, this is a guy with a giant ceiling. Lonzo Ball is a guy who, if healthy, has a pretty giant ceiling. I mean, it seems like a decent spot to be able to get guys that young.
Yes, and as you said, the youth movement on full display here. John Collins, I love this kid. Dan, only 20 years old, already last season finished as the 69th player for 8 category leagues. A lot of buzz about him facilitating a lot more in this offense, the offense going through him. Atlanta has a real lack of talent in their front court, so he's got that front court all to himself. Love this pick. Wendell Carter Jr., a guy, a lot of great bigs in this draft, but I felt was the most well-rounded, and we saw that in Summer League, Dan. Blocks, great shooter, great rebounder. Dan, only 20 years old. All 3 of these guys that went here, only 20 years old.
It's an interesting pairing, though, right? The team that ended up with Wendell Carter Jr. ended up with Kemba Walker later in this same round and had Kevin Durant in the first round. By the way, it's part of a little 2-pack here. Kevin Love, Kemba Walker, a couple of slightly older guys at 42 and 43. Jared Allen, your guy, slips in at 44. Josh Richardson, Chris Paul, Jonathan Isaac, and C.J. McCollum rounding out that second round. Tell me about the old guys here at the end of the second round. Tell me about the young guys. I mean, you got super young, you got super old blended in there, and you also have C.J. McCollum and Josh Richardson, who are neither super old nor super young.
I love the picks, Dan. Chris Paul, I mean, maybe it's just because I went really young. Chris Paul, though, at age 33, is a little risky there for me, but, still an elite point guard. And Josh Richardson just hitting his stride at age 24. Do-it-all guy. We love the defense. Now, Dan, Jonathan Isaac still feels like somewhat of a question mark. This feels like a little risky here, only because, last season, this guy finished as the 321st player on the player rater and, only played around 20 minutes per game. So we haven't actually seen him make that leap yet, but we've seen we've seen the signs there, and it's the defensive stats. The 1.1 blocks a game, 1.2 steals in limited minutes. If this guy can get 30 minutes per game, you just salivate over that defense.
Yeah, that's the thing that obviously jumps out at you. Would any of these teams, so let's see, Jonathan Isaac, that pairs up with Giannis. Same team, by the way, also had C.J. McCollum. So you got a bunch of trades going down already in this league.
Oh, Dan, there's trades going on all day in this league. Dan, I'm the commissioner of this league. I have to approve these trades. I'm nervous to go to the bathroom because I'm going to miss a trade. Dan, we haven't even started the season yet, and there's 5 trades a day going on in this league. Actually, I have to say, now that we're in some of the later rounds, the trades have kind of subsided a bit.
Thank goodness, because guess what? The Hoopball email account gets an auto email every time one of these things goes down. So I've been seeing all of those flashing by. I've looked at them and I've been like, oh my God, good Lord, people. And then I get those for the first Hoopball Dynasty League too. So this email account is just flooded with trade executed emails just coming in all day, every day. I don't know what the heck's going on, but now that I look at it during our Dynasty show, I think I have a little bit of a better idea. Adrian, a little bit of a wrap-up here on round 2 of your Dynasty draft. Were there any things in this second round that jumped out at you as extremely interesting, either for good or bad reasons?
Dan, I really can't fault any pick here. Every single one of these guys has a plan. And, Dan, I got to say, man, I thought I was like a hardcore geek at this. These guys put me to shame, Dan. There's no grabbing a sleeper late in this draft. There's no value picks. Guys that I thought that would be available late ended up going way before I thought they would go. Dan, some of these guys play in multiple deep dynasty leagues, Dan. These guys are all on it, and it is an honor to be in this league with these guys.
By the way, that's nuts, because just from looking at the draft alone, I can tell you that a dynasty league it looks like it's about 3 to 5 times as much work as a regular league. Who the hell has time for multiple ones of that? Do something. Get more hobbies.
Dan, it takes a different kind of person to be in these leagues. Like, you really got to love basketball. And I'm telling you, Dan, I really thought, like, oh man, I'm going to be savvy. I'm going to grab these guys, these no-name guys. Dan, there was none of that. Every single one. I mean, this is one of the most difficult drafts I think I've ever done because of the knowledge in here.
Man, this looks nuts. Can't wait to talk about more of it. Adrian Benjamins, the Dynasty King here and host of Fantasy NBA Today. A pleasure, my good man. I tip my cap to you.
It was a pleasure for me, Dan. Thank you very much.
Like I said before, you will have me talking sports betting at your face on tomorrow's episode. I'll be joined by Neil Rochlani on Thursday for a grab bag episode. We'll get into a little bit of everything. And then Friday, you and Neil, you got more stuff up your sleeves. You guys always have something. I love those Friday shows. You guys are kicking ass. I love it. Well done.
Yeah, we have, we're doing another division recap. I can't remember what division we're on. I think we've got one more left. And then, Dan, Neil and I, we're going to get a little more heavy into the mock drafts. And I think one thing would be really fun is to do a mock draft with the Hoop Ball listeners and kind of dissect it on a future show. So hopefully we'll get into that.
Yes,
we'll
unquestionably that will happen. We did one last year. It was a really interesting way to see who everybody at Hoop Ball was targeting. It was a nice draft to sort of put into juxtaposition against, say, a Roto-World draft or a Basketball Monster draft or an across the industry draft or an average Yahoo draft, and just taking all those little puzzle pieces, 6-7 different types of mock drafts, and putting them together. You could get a really good idea of where certain guys were going, especially if you knew what the people in your league were using as their source of information. You could almost predict every pick 2 to 3 in advance, and you could get the guy you were looking for. Really good stuff to be able to analyze all of those different types of drafts. For Adrian, I am Dan. Have a lovely Tuesday, everyone. Again, you can follow us on Twitter. If you can spell our names, you can find us, or just follow at Hoopball Fantasy. And when the tweet goes out about this particular podcast or any future podcast, you'll see our names tagged in that as well. So long, everybody.
This has been a Hoop Ball presentation.